What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror here today, and today we're doing our review of Ari Aster's Midsommar. Midsommar is the next movie from Ari Aster from the great movie he did, Hereditary. I absolutely adore the movie. I think it's one of the most enjoyable horror movies I've seen myself in a very long time. Just very impressive. The guy does incredible things with the camera. The guy does incredible things with letting his actors act and perform in his movies. And I expected a lot more of the same with Midsommar, and I got what I was wanting, and I also got a lot more I didn't necessarily know I was asking for. So I'm going to read some notes, guys, but this is what I want to say about the opening of this movie and my thoughts on this. Midsommar solidifies my thoughts of what it takes to be in an Ari Aster film. Those thoughts being, you better have your acting craft down, and you better know your lines and spots, because Ari will rely on the focus of the camera and the performance of the actors to tell his story, and I noticed that greatly in Midsommar. I noticed it's almost Ari has taken notes of the way John Carpenter did things, and many other filmmakers, of letting the shots develop, and I don't mean that with a pun. I mean that letting his shots hold and letting the actors go throughout the shots, letting them talk. It's not multiple cuts. It's not an action scene in a Batman flick, if you will, where it's multiple fast cuts with things going on. These scenes hold, and you see dialogue develop as the shots progress. And that is really nice, because it really lets you sink into the film. Because when you have multiple fast cuts in the movies, it's almost like, whoa, what's going on? Midsommar does not do that whatsoever. Midsommar moves the camera with the shots. Midsommar moves the camera to get into the next scenes almost, and it seems very streamlined and nice. So work-wise with this, the way he works the camera and the way he lets his actors perform is an 11 out of 10. Ari is doing things with the camera and letting his actors act in a way that is so nice, because it's almost like a play. It's almost like a play, and you're seeing these things go out and progress in such a natural fashion without all these fast cuts and fast motions and things like that. And it's very lovely. I've noticed it greatly with Midsommar, even more so than with Hereditary, which he did very well camera-wise with that. But Midsommar, he really explores how long he can make scenes look and how long he can make shots go out and let dialogue go on throughout these. So I'll leave it at that, but that is reason enough for you guys to check out this movie to see real performances on screen. The next thing I'll bring up about Midsommar is, despite the intense hardship of the opening sequence of this film, the opening act is, and what will turn out to be, the most normal part of the movie. You know, the interesting thing about this movie is the beginning is this girl's world being completely turned upside down, and she's perceived as this needy girl, and she's really not. She's just really having a hard time with this sister who is crazy, and she ends up killing her parents and her and the house, and then the sister, the main actress of the movie. You almost think that this is just a natural thing with her sister, because it seems like she's on medicine and she's always doing these things to get attention, but we find out that this girl actually goes over the edge and kills both her parents and herself. And then our main character is left to deal with this in the opening act, and it is very intense, very hard to watch. But interestingly enough, that is the most normal, grounded thing that we will see in this movie, which is very interesting. So getting into Midsommar, when we get to the world of this cult and the world of these people, here's what's odd to me that really threw me off, and I really had to think more about this after the film ended. It wasn't something I was able to just think about and discuss with people around me as the film was going on. This movie is what you would call that strange cult-like atmosphere of all these people with this really strong belief system and the way they are doing things and the way they are enjoying this festival, and it becomes extremely crazy. But what's interesting is there was no notions of the satanic cult symbolism, as you will, when the death starts happening, and you always wait for this moment of the proverbial door closing, and then you see these happy people with these grins turn into sadistic dark faces in these moments happening. But that doesn't happen in Midsommar, and that's what's so odd about this movie, is these people that are doing this festival out here in this old archaic type world that they're living in with the cotton dresses and all that. They are always so giddy and happy, and when they kill or when their old people die, because that's part of their rituals when they get to a certain age, it's still all this happy feelings and everything's just. That's what's really odd, but beautifully creepy in this film. It's not something I had never experienced before. There's one scene with this old couple that has to jump off of the cliff because they have reached their age. They have reached that age of where they're cut off, where they decide that they're going to give themselves up for their belief system and their world, and it's very, very gruesome yet intense. It satisfies even the most slasher-loving horror movie fan, but still leans itself to the story of what makes this a very interesting film. So it blends very well, because there will be moments for just a hardcore slasher horror movie fan, but also it works well and fits in with this imaginative story that's going on throughout this whole picture. So the ending is something I'll leave spoiler-free. This movie is really kind of hard to just describe. You have to experience this movie. The things that I almost wanted to see, I didn't see. For instance, I was talking about earlier with the cult stuff. I was really hoping to see that level of satanic nature with the symbolism and the cult and the demonic things, but you don't get that. That's what makes this movie so interesting. It's because there's no proverbial door closing, if you will, where all these happy people turn those frowns into almost just sadistic smiles, like they know what they're doing, but they really are just this bizarre group of people who do these ritual sacrificings, and it's part of it, and they're so happy, and it's strange. But the metaphor for the main character at the very end is what's interesting, because it almost comes full circle, but it's not something I realized until I'm discussing this film later on with my wife about she gained a family at the end. And as dark and twisted as that is, it's almost extremely poetic, and she becomes loved and she becomes part of something. And that's what's really almost loving about this movie, as it is twisted. You know, this movie is very polarizing. Some people absolutely love this film, some people absolutely hate this film. I really enjoyed it. Now, when it comes to the two Ari films that I know of, I don't know how many he's done, Hereditary and Midsommar. Hereditary is still my favorite because it tackles things that are very much in my wheelhouse of what I enjoy to see. Satanic, cult-like, demonic things. I really love that in my type of horror movies. This movie was absolutely gorgeous. There's not a complaint I have for this movie. You have to experience this. Whether you decide you like it or you don't like it, this movie just pushes the boundaries of how beautiful film can look out in the natural lighting. There's a contrast and a natural filter that filming outdoors like they did for this in this big open field looks that you can't replicate with any sort of green screen. This is the most beautiful film I've ever seen. Just the outside world, it's so bright and crisp and everything is so divine looking, and it completely matches the tonality of this film. It's such a high contrast of happiness with creepiness that there truly is not a movie like Midsommar that I can really recall. It's very unique, and what you would expect with this type of atmospheric movie, you may not get, but it's a movie you have to think about once you're done watching it, because you're taking all of this crazy stuff in, and it's so outerworldly, yet with such grounded main characters that you're sunken into the movie trying to understand what's going on. So when it's done, that's when you're thinking about what you saw and trying to piece together the questions you have, which is, I would say, the mark of a brilliant filmmaker. So Midsommar is 100% an amazing film in my opinion. I don't even really want to compare it to Hereditary because they aren't the same film, really. Just between the two, Hereditary is still my favorite. I love Toni Collette in that movie, and this main actress is phenomenal. You have to be a good actress to be in an Ari film. That's clear because Ari is relying on the camera work and the actors to tell his story. So Midsommar, some may love it, some may hate it, some may not understand it, but it's got to be experienced. You've got to check this movie out and see how just beautifully horrifying this movie is. That's Midsommar. Check it out. I'd give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. That good.